Okay, so think about this for a second. How do you possibly assassinate one of the most protected leaders on the entire planet in his own home? That's the huge mystery we're going to try and unravel today. We're talking about Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, a man surrounded by what you could only call a mythical level of security. And somehow, that shield was just broken. So how did it happen? All right, let's get into it.
First off, you really need to understand the stakes here. This isn't just your standard security detail, not by a long shot. The Supreme Leader was protected by something called the Valiamr Force. It's a super secretive, totally elite unit inside the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And get this, we're talking about 12,000 elite soldiers. 12,000. Their one and only job was to protect him. This was basically a human fortress.
And yet, that fortress was breached. The unthinkable happened. And not in some public motorcade or during a risky trip abroad. Nope. He was targeted in his own home, surrounded by his family. I mean, how is that even possible? This is the one question that has spies and analysts all over the world completely scrambling. And as you can imagine, it leads to some pretty wild and honestly pretty unsettling theories.
All right, theory number one. And this one, well, it sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood spy thriller. Seriously. People are calling it the tooth fairy theory. And while, most insiders think this is probably the least likely scenario, you have to admit it paints an absolutely wild picture of just how deep an infiltration could go.
So, who are the masterminds in this particular story? Well, this theory points the finger directly at Israel's legendary intelligence agency, the Mossad, supposedly working hand in glove with the American CIA. And look, these guys are famous for pulling off incredibly audacious long-game operations. And this theory, it definitely fits the bill. So here's how it supposedly went down. It suggests that foreign agents, posing as doctors and dentists, managed to get right into Iran's inner circle. I mean, just picture this. A high-ranking official is in the chair for a routine root canal, or maybe even having abdominal surgery, and boom, the doctor implants a tiny, sophisticated tracking device. It's the ultimate hiding in plain sight scenario, a spy with a drill instead of a dagger. It's just wild.
Okay, so that first theory feels like a movie script, right? Well, this next one is way more chilling because it suggests the enemy wasn't some outside force at all. No, the threat came from inside the house, right from the heart of the most trusted inner circle. We're talking about the ultimate betrayal.
Now, to really get this theory, you have to know about the Quds Force. This is the IRGC's top-tier special ops unit. Their job is to project Iran's power all over the world. So think of them as like a mix of special forces and an intelligence agency all rolled into one. And the guy who runs it, he's one of the most powerful people in the entire country. And that man is Esmail Qaani. He's the guy who took over after the infamous Qasem Soleimani was taken out. Now, as the head of the Quds Force, he had incredible access, incredible trust, which is precisely what puts him right at the center of this whole conspiracy theory.
And when you start looking at the circumstantial evidence, a really disturbing pattern starts to pop up. When Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, was killed, Qaani was reportedly nearby. When Qasem Soleimani was targeted, Qaani was in the area. And now, with Khamenei, it's the exact same story. He's the one common denominator, the guy who somehow always manages to walk away totally unscathed.
And the specifics of this theory are just damning. The whispers say he was actually at the supreme leader's home, but left only moments before the strike hit. There are even reports, though, they're not confirmed by state media, that he was taken in for questioning. The whole idea here is that he was a compromised agent, the ultimate mole working for Mossad or the CIA. If that's true, it would mean there's a spy network that goes all the way to the top of the Iranian regime.
Okay, let's pivot a little. We've talked about human spies, but what about digital ghosts? This third theory is maybe the most high-tech and sophisticated of them all. It suggests the whole thing was pulled off because of a massive, long-term cyber attack, one that cleverly turned Iran's own surveillance state against itself.
So the key player in this theory is in Mossad. It's another, maybe even more shadowy Israeli group, Unit 8200. This is the elite cyber warfare division of the Israeli military, and they're considered, one of the absolute best in the world. Their weapon of choice isn't a bomb or a bullet. It's code. And this is where the story gets really incredible. It supposedly all started back with the Masa Amini protests. See, to crack down on those protests, the Iranian government installed thousands of advanced facial recognition cameras to track people. But here's the twist. The theory goes that Unit 8200 saw this as a golden opportunity. They allegedly hacked that massive camera network, and the very tool the regime was using for oppression, they turned it around to build a detailed pattern of life map, not of protesters, but of the supreme leader himself. But this wasn't just one simple hack. Oh no. This was a complex, multi-layered digital attack. They supposedly took over Tehran's traffic camera network. Then they hacked the cell phone towers near Khamenei's home so they could jam communications during the strike. And then they went for something deeply personal, a prayer app called Bade Sabah, which is on the phones of tens of millions of devout Iranians. And this is the psychological masterstroke. At the exact moment of the attack, that trusted religious app reportedly sent a push notification to millions and millions of phones. But it wasn't a prayer, it was a message. And the message read, "Help has arrived." Just think about that. It was pure psychological warfare, a signal to everyone that the regime had lost control of everything. So we've talked about spies, we've talked about hackers, but there's one last theory. And this one changes everything. It reframes the entire event. Because what if the key to this whole puzzle isn't the person who pulled the trigger, but the victim himself? What if this wasn't really an assassination at all, but a chosen martyrdom? Now take a look at this. It's a quote from a note Khamenei allegedly wrote earlier in the year. He seems to be anticipating his own death, right? He's telling his followers, hey, leaders can be targeted, I might be targeted, but you cannot stop. He even told them to get a line of succession ready. This really suggests he wasn't caught off guard. In a way, he was ready for it. And this leads you to two totally different ways of looking at his final days. Was he just a hunted victim, hiding in bunkers, a symbol of a fearful, weakened regime? Or was he something else? A martyr who chose to live openly, to be defiant, fully knowing the risks he was taking. Because think about it, his death as a victim is a loss. But his death as a martyr, that's an inspiration, a powerful call to arms. And here's the thing. Sources say he actively refused to go hide in secure bunkers, even when tensions were at their highest. The fact that he kept up his public appearances, that he insisted on living openly, you could see that as his final, calculated message to everyone. It's the act of a leader who would rather die on his feet than live on his knees. It's a final statement of defiance, designed to inspire people long after he's gone. So where does that leave us? What really happened? Was it a massive intelligence failure? A crack in an otherwise impenetrable wall? Was it the ultimate inside job, a betrayal from the very top? Or was it a leader's final, defiant statement? The real answer is probably a messy combination of all of these things. But the question of which theory you lean towards, well, that says as much about our world as it does about what happened on that day.